What's happening, everybody? Off the Mike Sports Network here. AEW has really been in a creative funk um, in the last, like I say, the last, 9 or 10 months, really for the last couple of years, because I think that there is a culture problem, there is a creative problem with this place, and nobody wants to call it out. And now I'm starting to see a lot more high profile names and a lot of people within who have been around the industry for a long time start to call it out. Dvon Dudley, who did an interview really recently, he made a claim that there's frustrations over Tony Khan allowing others to call the shots, and he said, "quote There's just certain things about the organization. I love the talent. I think the talent is great. There's no question about that. But there's a feeling that certain people in the organization that call the shots, I'm not a big fan of them. And Tony Khan lets that happen. I've got nothing against AEW as a company. I've got nothing against Tony Khan. I just don't like the way the organization is run, and that's about it. Again, I've got friends at AEW. I've met new people at autograph signings like Will Ospreay, who's a great guy, and a lot of talent in AEW have the same frustration that I see. They just wish that certain people wouldn't be calling the shots and that Tony would take more control, but yet give it to somebody that knows what they're doing. Now, this is something that I've talked about extensively on this channel for a long time. Tony Khan is too much of a mark and too much of a fanboy to tell the people that he's brought in and paid off inordinate sums of money that he's been a fan of, and is just too much of a geek to tell these people no. And he seems to present himself that he isn't beholden to Mercedes Moné. That's a load of crap because she's taken one loss. Who knows what's going to happen with this Chris Statlander match at Full Gear that is now official. I hope Chris Statlander wins because I think the fate of the women's division is on the line. And even if Chris Statlander wins, it really I don't know where they go from this, because then the whole, unless they go to a whole downfall gimmick for Mercedes, even then I don't know what the point of this all is. Is like you spent all this time building her up and making her look ridiculous in like this segment that was very WWE is also an issue. Like here's the other thing. Not only is, here's where you get where have the issue, and where Dvon I think has a point. This company has a massive identity crisis. A massive identity crisis. They want to put on banger after banger after banger, and they want to put on all these matches with no story whatsoever. And the fanboys will tell me it's all good graps and it's way better than anything WWE puts out. And, hey, there's way too many comedy sketch segments or too much cinema, as they say, with the bloodline and whatnot. And listen, I'm getting over the bloodline stuff, and I've talked about that here on the channel. But then you get a segment at the top of the 9 o'clock hour on Wednesday where Mercedes Moné is celebrating her being 12 belts Moné. She's got a cake in the ring. She's interacting with a puppet, puts the puppet into a cake, and then she gets thrown into a cake. That is as Vince McMahon of a Vince McMahon segment as I've ever seen in my life. And people normally have ditched out to go to AEW to avoid this type of crap. But every single one of the sickos was like, this was brilliant because Statlander got her comeuppance and was able to get one up on Mercedes Moné. And it leads me into is like, wait, Tony Khan was all about, storyline based and, sports based presentation. And, a lot of stuff's being driven through story. And that's where AEW was a few years ago. And yet in their biggest year ever, they feel more like WWE than ever before. It's just that they have way more wrestling. But more often than not, you're seeing a lot of just, Vince McMahon level nonsense. And the difference is Vince, and I'm not dismissing anything that Vince does. Vince at least was enough of a boss where he took control of things. He didn't do a good job of it. But Tony Khan, his biggest issue is he has zero control over the inmates in his system. And that's why you get some of these inconsistent things where you don't know what this product is. You don't know if it's a wrestling product. You don't know if it's an entertainment product. Because I watched that segment with Mercedes Moné and, Chris Statlander and Harley Cameron. I think Harley Cameron is fucking entertaining, and I think it's great. But you can't be outraged at the WWE product for some of the entertainment aspects that they do and then go out and do a segment like that. And Mercedes has got, and we know this, Mercedes has got her own writing team. She's got her own writer. She's got her own team that puts together everything that she's presented in and, all the stuff that she does and, the aesthetics and the costumes and, the elaborate entrances that she gets. Like everything is put through her. She has her own team. Tony Khan is not having any role in any of that. And that's the issue that Dvon Dudley is pointing. Too many people in this promotion that are talent on this roster have too much control over what goes on television. And that can't happen. You have to have somebody who is able to have, the ability to, put out a story, put out creative aspects into the ether. And, you can have banter and you can have disagreement, but there's got to be one end all be all and one person in control of the whole thing. And WWE, they haven't done a great job with their stories, but at least you kind of know what they are. You kind of know what they are in a lot of aspects of their creative process. And they haven't been shy about that because, hey, they put that out on a Netflix documentary. But there's too many people within this company that have a role that they shouldn't have. They're whether this is a denial or just a deflection. There's too many people with creative control in that place. There's too many people. That's why some people don't lose. Some people lose in funky fashions. You have weird endings to matches. You have weird segments that go in, I don't know why the fuck the world champion wasn't featured at all on the show. Like there's just weird decisions that get made. And yes, Tony Khan's name goes out as, the head booker of this whole thing, but we all know that that's not the case, right? Like this company has such a massive identity crisis. There is no focus to it. There is like everything just seems so out of touch and everything seems so disconnected because when you're coming out of a pay-per-view, the objective coming out of that show, and I've seen this a lot with AEW specifically this year, is when you come out of a pay-per-view, you typically want to start the road to the next one. And more often than not, the pay-per-views have really not mattered. And then basically the stuff that happened on the pay-per-view doesn't carry over and start until, and they just will literally throw about 7 matches together like a week or two beforehand. And it's just sort of the same process every single month. And it's mostly because, hey, you let the talent do whatever because you have a talented roster and you kind of lean on them. But that's not how this whole thing is supposed to work. The whole thing is supposed to work when you have one central figure who is the real vessel that, puts together. He is surrounded by a team of people. They put together a show and the talent goes out there and execute it. It's not the talent puts the show in front of the boss and they do whatever they want. That's why this product has gotten so out of whack. There's so many voices, there's too many cooks trying to, put their vision out there. And like I said, Tony Khan has gotten to the point where he just doesn't care and he's too much of a mark to say no to these people. And that's why people like me have gotten really tired of this shit. So what Dvon Dudley really is saying is what I've been saying and what a lot of people within the IWC have been saying for weeks and months and years about this place, is that there is no control. There's no control. There is no vision. There is no, real identity of this place. And until they figure that out, nobody is going to take this place seriously. That's just the way it is. And the fact is that fan base is just as much of an issue with this. All they do is enable this crap from happening and saying, oh, it's great. It's great. Everything's great. This is the greatest year ever. It's like, no, it's not. I watched CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and Adam Cole debut in a span of a month, and you had more people in those venues and more people watching that product than ever before. Now they got half of that audience because they don't have any direction and because those people actually had a voice and actually had some, you know, you know, self-restraint to not like, dominate over the product. They knew what they were doing. Cody Rhodes was another example. There's no like, real like common purpose, and everybody's in it for themselves. And when you have those type of people and you don't have somebody at the top who's willing to step in and basically tell everybody, hey, listen, this is my vision, this is my thing, this is what I want to do. And if you don't want to be down with it, get the fuck out of here. Tony Khan is too much of a coward to tell people that this is his company. He's just happy to be there. He's just happy to have it. It's great. Everything's great. Anyway, thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.